Catherine Williams with the ACLU of California here, regretfully in opposition. We really appreciate and share the Assembly members' concerns about cyberbullying. However, our position hasn't changed from prior iterations of this bill. We continue to oppose proposals that will increase student suspensions and expulsions. We maintain, and research has shown that exclusionary discipline policies do not work to address the root causes of harmful student behavior, nor do they address the impact of bullying on the victim. We would be thrilled to work on a proposal that would address student misbehavior in an effective way, and in recent years we have done that. We've partnered with the legislature to advance effective discipline policies. There are many examples of comprehensive programs that work to improve school safety. Alternative measures of discipline require a commitment to address student behavior, but they are much more effective than policies that just push students out of school. Therefore, we really urge the committee to take a second look and vote no on this proposal. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Just to note, the bill does not require automatic suspension. It still leaves it at the discretion of the principal. Indeed. And when something like this is done in a very public manner, just coming from a high school setting, sometimes it is okay to remove a child from the public setting just for a couple days to let things cool down. Just a little bit of input there. With that, any further opposition? Any comments from the committee? No comments from the committee. The motion is a support. I'll move it. Or, oh, you got it. Go ahead and close, Ms. Garcia.
All right. I know you've had a long day, but as a teacher, I've seen how even my ability to teach is affected when we have bullying, and just know what's going on online. And it's as a teacher, suspension is not the first place I start off. I want to say I think most educators in the school look for alternative measures to deal with the situation and work on a community and how we're working on this issue. And yes, suspension is a part of what could happen down the road, but this is existing code. We've been dealing with cyberbullying, with bullying for many years, and this is adding to one more element in there. And so I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. The motion is support. Did we have a second on that? Or the motion is do pass. Sorry. We have a motion. Secretary, please call the roll.
O'Donnell?
Yeah, aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Chavez? Kim? Aye. Kim, aye. McCarty? Santiago? Thurmond? Weber? Aye. Weber, aye. It's on.
The bill is on call.
All right, and I want to say that my keys were never taken from me while I was the teacher.
Neither were mine. Same set for 20 years. Don't be pointing that finger, Ms. Garcia. Mr. Rendon, please come forward. You may begin. It is file item 19, AB 1126.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee members, I will gladly accept the committee's amendments to AB 1126. Thank you for your work on this bill. Asthma affects over 1.2 million children in California, and it results in a tremendous amount of lost classroom time for children, over 1 million hours in lost classroom time from children who suffer from asthma. AB 1126 seeks to ask public schools to post copies online of their annual HVAC unit inspections, to place those online. Dirty HVAC systems can harbor rot, mold, and other airborne pathogens. If HVAC systems are not cleaned regularly, we are putting students and staff at risk for asthma and other respiratory illnesses. In my district, we have a number of schools which suffer from overcrowding. A lot of kids who attend schools in bungalows and portable classrooms, which are really susceptible to rot and mold, particularly which emanate from the HVAC systems. So we need to make sure that those are cleaned regularly. We need to make sure that parents and folks from the general public have access to those documents. This simply asks school districts to place those HVAC reports online. I have Kendra Harris and David Chakanaka, from CFT here to offer their support and to answer any questions.
Thank you. I want to bring this to your attention. I sit on a CFT committee that looks at safe schools, and I'm Robert Chakanaka. I'm president of Local 6084 in Santa Cruz. I sit on a committee-wide, statewide committee for the California Federation of Teachers called Safe Schools. We generally address safety issues, and this was brought to our attention as an environmental safety issue. And after researching and looking into it and looking at the different schools that different committee members were on, we found out that during the downturn in the economy, a lot of districts let people go that did this kind of work. And therefore, there was a lack of attention paid to the HVAC systems. We were rather surprised. If you know, you're a teacher, the facility is quite large, HVAC systems are large, they're industrial, and when they're not properly maintained, you get these kinds of problems that psoriasis, asthma, breathing issues, and a lot of our classrooms are closed. They're closed systems, so you can't open a window. You can open a door, but with the weather in the winter, the idea is to have a warm room and a safe breathing room. So we brought this to your attention, and we asked the author to carry the bill, and he's done it. We appreciate it. We hope we can gain your support on this. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Kendra Harris with the California Federation of Teachers. Pleased to sponsor the bill. Thank you to the Assembly member for carrying it for us. I mean, as already illustrated, this is a pretty simple bill. We're not actually mandating that schools maintain these systems, but rather just when they do maintain them, put that report online so people can access it, and they know that these systems are being maintained, if at all. As already illustrated, asthma is a leading cause of absence for our students and staff alike, and so we want to make sure that the air they're breathing at least has the hope of being a little bit cleaner. So we ask for your support.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wish to speak in support? Any opposition? Seeing none, members of the committee? Moved and seconded. Mr. Rennan, you may close.
Thank you. This is an important bill in terms of the health and safety of our students. These records are already kept by schools. This simply asks them to be placed online so the public may have access to them. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, if you call the roll, please.
The motion is do pass as amended to appropriations. O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Chavez? Kim? Aye. Kim, aye. McCarty? Santiago? Thurman? Weber? Aye. Weber, aye. It's on call. It's 3.
The bill is on call.
Votes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members.
Okay. Ms. Baker, please come forward. File item number 17, AB 1058. AB 1058. Ms. Baker, you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I am pleased to present to you today AB 1058. It's a bill that is appropriate to consider, I think, under any circumstances, but particularly this month of April, which, as you know, is Child Abuse Prevention Month. And prevention of child abuse is exactly what this bill is about. First, let me start by saying that my fellow author of this bill, Assemblymember Gatto, is unable to join us today in testimony, but I do speak for both of us when I say thank you to the committee for their suggested amendments. We are pleased to adopt them and appreciate them as being proposed. AB 1058 builds on the progress that our state has begun to make in better protecting the 6.2 million public school children in California from child abuse on campus from someone who has access to our public schools, whether as employees, as teachers, or principals, or school administrative staff. Last year, our good colleague, Assemblymember Gatto, introduced and the governor signed into law AB 1432 with bipartisan support. AB 1432 required for the first time that school districts provide our teachers and other school employees with annual training on how to identify suspected cases of child abuse and what are the reporting requirements that those school employees have to ensure that the child abuse does not continue and is properly investigated. As a result now, every year teachers and other school employees receive training on the identification of suspected abuse and reporting requirements. This has been great progress. But there's more we can do to protect our children, and that's what this bill is about. AB 1058 builds upon the progress of last year by focusing on how we can better prevent the circumstances on our campuses and in school programs that might allow for child abuse to occur. It focuses on prevention techniques so that we can prevent anything ever needing to be reported in the first place. Specifically, AB 1058 would require that the State Department of Education establish for the first time guidelines and best practices regarding child abuse prevention, including how to operate our schools and do the job of educating and enriching our children in ways that protect them from possible circumstances of abuse. Secondly, the bill strongly encourages and supports our local schools and school agencies and diagnostic centers in training that is mandated by the state to occur anyway. Every year now, there will be training for teachers, as I mentioned, under last year's bill. This bill would require not only that guidelines be posted, but encourage that our local school districts actually adopt those guidelines and incorporate that training into the time that will already be spent with our teachers at the beginning of the school year, typically. Let me just say how necessary this bill is. Currently, the private sector and nonprofit worlds are far ahead of us when it comes to prevention training. In my professional practice as an attorney, I have the pleasure of working with many nonprofit youth organizations. Both are school-based and other groups, and many of these youth organizations in the country are already including prevention practices in the required training that they have for anyone who interacts with children or uses their facilities. Prevention training really is basically the standard of care now for any good youth organization in the country. And as a parent who participates in many youth programs, I see again and again how youth organizations are beginning to include training for volunteers, not only on what their reporting requirements are if they think there's a problem, but what are best practices for preventing them. For example, I can't take my own son to camp or teach archery in my daughter's troop unless I've taken a 45-minute training video every 2 years that covers not just how to spot potential problems and report them, but how to set up the circumstances so it's unlikely child abuse will be facilitated at our campuses and other locations. The point is, the private sector and the nonprofit sector are in many ways already doing this, and we don't want to be behind the curve. We've already seen many groups across the country that have learned the hard way what happens when you don't properly train or do any training at all to protect our children, and now is an opportunity for us to fix that. We really don't have anything comparable to this in our current school system. And in fact, every superintendent and principal and teacher with whom I have the pleasure of working says they would really like to have this training, not just because it protects our kids, but our teachers deserve it. These are the same people that are the first ones to get blamed whenever something goes wrong in our schools for whatever reason. My mom was a public school teacher for over 20 years in California and saw the finger constantly being pointed at teachers whenever something seemed to be not right. We owe it to them to provide them with the tools and supportive training so they can better protect kids in our school programs and facilities. So with that, I'd also like to note we have received no opposition to this legislation, but have recently received letters of support that came in after the committee was able to prepare materials for members. I'm happy to provide copies of those today. And with that, I just wanted to thank you for your thoughtful attention and be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Any other witnesses in support?
Ray Burnell with the California Catholic Conference, and we're in strong support of this measure for the safety and the welcoming environments for our kids. Thank you.
Ms. Baker, would this apply to private schools?
Beg your pardon?
Would this apply to private schools as well?
This applies to our public schools.
Charter schools?
Well, charter schools are part of our public school system.
Thank you. It does. Okay. Okay. Thank you. No. Any individuals in opposition? Seeing none, any members of the committee wish to comment? Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Moved and seconded. Ms. Baker, the motion is due pass as amended to Appropriations Committee. You may close.
I just respectfully request your aye vote, and I thank you for your time.
Madam Secretary, will you call the roll, please?
O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Chavez? Kim? Aye. Kim, aye. McCarty? Santiago? Thurmond? Weber? Aye. Weber, aye. So 3 votes.
The bill is on call. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
With that, we'll move to Mr. Hernandez. Mr. Hernandez, if you come forward, it's file item number 11, AB 787. File item number 11. Give me 1 minute here, Mr. Hernandez.